He threw a dirty rag at my chest and told me to clean the toilets. He had no idea he was talking to the woman who built the boat under his feet, owned the company that made it float, and was holding a remote control that could stop his heart from 100 yards away. 3 days later, in front of 2 senators, a wall of press cameras, and his father's entire board of directors, I pressed a button. And his $40 million launch party went dead silent. If you've ever been underestimated by someone who mistook your silence for weakness, stick around. This is one of the most satisfying stories of quiet, engineered justice you'll hear this year. Hit subscribe, tap that like button, and let's watch a trust fund boy learn exactly whose name is on the deed. My name is Yvonne Vance, and by 7 a.m. that morning, I already smelled like grease and diesel, which for me is the smell of a job well done. I was kneeling by an access hatch on the aft deck of the Ethel Guard, a 40-meter vessel I had designed down to the last redundancy circuit. I am the founder and chief architect of Thea Systems, the marine engineering company that built this ship's entire nervous system. That morning, the port thruster telemetry was showing a 0.4% variance in response time. To most people, that's nothing. To me, it's the difference between a flawless docking and a lawsuit that ends a career. So there I was, faded navy coveralls, hair scraped into a bun, a smear of grease on my cheek. I looked, to the untrained eye, like the help. That was about to become a very expensive assumption for someone. I heard him before I saw him, heavy footsteps on the gangway, a laugh that sounded like money with no follow-through behind it. Brent, 26 years old, son of Richard, the venture capital titan whose firm held a minority stake in my company. Brent, who treated equity like a word he'd heard once at a party and liked the sound of. He came swaggering onto the deck, holding a mimosa at 8:30 in the morning. Sunglasses, worth more than my first car. He looked at me, kneeling by the hatch. He looked at the grease on my cheek. He did not look at my face long enough to actually see it. "Hey, cleaning crew was supposed to be gone by 8, he snapped, snapping his fingers like I was a dog. "I've got investors coming at noon. I need this deck spotless. And get me a towel. This humidity's got me sweating like a pig." He threw a dirty rag at my chest. It landed with a wet thud. I want you to sit with that for a second, because this is the part that should make your blood simmer. I wasn't a stranger on this boat. I was the reason this boat existed. And he looked straight through me like I was furniture. Here's what Brent didn't know, and it's worth explaining, because this is where the entire story pivots. 6 months earlier, Richard, Brent's father, had sat across from me in a glass conference room in Seattle and asked me to hand his son a project. Something tangible. He wanted the Ethel Guard to be the stage for it. I agreed to lease Brent operational control, user-level access. He could steer, plan events, dock the boat, play captain, but the title, the insurance, and the root systems administration stayed with me and my engineers. I made sure of it. Page 72 of an 80-page contract contained a clause one wrote myself. It stated that, in the event of misuse, safety violations, or reputational damage, I, the legal owner, retained the right to assume immediate and total control of the vessel's systems, remotely, without prior notice. Richard never read page 72. He just wanted his son out of the office. Brent definitely never read it either. He had been driving a rental car the entire time, completely convinced he owned the dealership. Back on the deck that morning, after Brent called me cleaning lady one more time and told me not to touch his Italian leather, I did something that would have terrified him if he'd understood what it meant. I walked past the security console and quietly activated a hidden logging subroutine. Audio and video from every sensor on the ship, feeding into a private partition only I could access. I wasn't storming off angry. I was walking away calm, because I was about to become a ghost inside my own machine. Within hours, through the bridge microphones, I heard the real plan. Brent, pacing the bridge, phone to his ear, bragging to a friend. "Yvonne's dead weight. old tech. I'm going to push her out. The board loves me. At the demo next week, I'm going to show them how much money we're wasting on her precious safety standards. She's toast. It wasn't just disrespect anymore. It was an actual coup, dressed up in a polo shirt and a mimosa. He wanted to use my own boat, at my own investor demo, to convince the board that I was obsolete. The old guard holding back his shiny new vision. I sat with that for a long moment. Then I did the thing I do best. I didn't get emotional. I got strategic. Over the next 3 days, I let him hang himself in high definition. I watched him turn my ship into a floating fraternity house. Cigar ash on the tick, stiletto heels punching holes in the decking, 3 crates of champagne before noon. I watched him tell a group of investors, feet up on the console, that he'd streamlined the whole system because the legacy engineer, me, doesn't get the user journey. I watched him leave confidential Q3 projections open on the salon table for anyone to photograph. I photographed them myself, not to clean up, to document. I ran into an old family friend, an investor named Henderson, on the dock one afternoon. He looked at the chaos, then at me, and asked quietly, "Are you letting this happen?" "I'm just letting the data accumulate," I told him. "I believe in a large sample size before making a decision." He nodded slowly. "I'll wear a life jacket to the demo on Friday." "Good idea," I said. "Stay near the gangway." Then came the real gut punch. My protege, Sarah, a young board member Brent had no idea was loyal to me, came to my office soaked from the rain with the news. Brent was calling it Project Fresh Sale. He'd built fake charts claiming my safety protocols were costing the company 15% in margins. He'd lined up 2 new board members. He was going to announce my removal at the Friday demo, on my boat, in front of the press. That's when the cold, crystalline anger I'd been holding turned into something else. A plan. I didn't write a rebuttal memo. I didn't call a lawyer. I went to the server room. I found the file labeled Demo Mode, the standard software preset used to show off the yacht's features to guests. I didn't delete anything. I added one small, elegant addition, a conditional trigger. If unauthorized user equals guest admin Brent, and location equals harbor coordinates, execute protocol, deadwater. I filed the update through the proper internal channel, logged honestly as a critical security compliance patch. Every word of that description was true. Nobody bothered to read it. Nobody ever does. I went home. I slept better than I had in weeks. Friday came in hot and blue-skied, the marina crawling with people who use the word synergy without irony. The Ethel Guard gleamed at the dock, banners reading Thea Systems. The future is now. Brent found me on the dock the day before and, without a hint of shame, uninvited me from the launch of my own ship. "Technical staff kind of killed the vibe," he told me. "Go treat yourself to a spa. Put it on the company card." I went home instead and laid out a simple black turtleneck and dark jeans. I wanted to be invisible until the exact moment I needed to be impossible to ignore. At noon, I slipped past security with an old friend's help, just checking the aft cabling, and took a quiet spot near the winch controls, half hidden behind a speaker stack. Brent took the stage with a microphone in one hand and a scotch in the other, practically glowing. "We've been too safe, too slow," he told the swelling crowd of investors and reporters. "Today we launch a new era, no more red tape, no more hesitation." The ropes came off, the engines roared. The crowd cheered as the Ethel Guard slid out into open water, Brent at the flybridge wheel, waving to the cameras on shore. I checked my watch. 12:15 p.m. I waited until they were 50 yards out, far enough that no one could throw a rope back. Close enough that every camera on the dock had a perfect view. Then I pressed the button on the small black fob in my hand. I held it down. 1 full second. The engines didn't sputter. They stopped, instantly, completely. The music died. The lights died. The radar stopped spinning mid-turn. The Ethel Guard, seconds ago a symbol of the future, became a 40-ton cork drifting sideways in the harbor. I could hear it all through my earpiece. Brent slamming the throttle, screaming into a dead intercom. The hired captain shouting back that the system was locked out. Admin override active. User unauthorized. Unauthorized, Brent repeated, panic climbing his voice. I'm the admin. Not anymore. The air conditioning died in the midday heat. The champagne warmed in a dead fridge. The guests, confused, started asking if this was part of the show. It was not part of the show. It was the entire point of the show. Brent scanned the crowd on the dock and found me standing perfectly still, the only person not taking a photo. I raised the fob so he could see it. I watched the realization land on his face like a slow-motion car crash. The cleaning lady, the tech dinosaur, was the one who just killed his engine from the shoreline. I picked up the marina's public radio frequency, broadcasting over the loudspeakers for the whole crowd to hear. This is Ivan Vance, owner of the vessel Ethelgard. I'm declaring the vessel has been remotely disabled due to unauthorized operation by unqualified personnel. Requesting a tow. Every reporter on that dock heard the word unqualified. Every camera turned from the drifting yacht to me. I walked up to the abandoned podium, still live-mic'd for Brent's celebration speech. And I didn't run from the moment. I stepped into it. There's been some confusion about the leadership and direction of this company, I told the crowd, my voice carrying clean across the water. I pulled up the ghost log footage on the big screen behind me, Brent calling me a cleaning lady, spilling scotch on the console. His own voice bragging about Project Fresh Sail over speakerphone. Maritime engineering isn't a game, I said. The ocean doesn't care about your stock price or your follower count. It cares about competence. Remove competence from the equation. And you get that. I gestured to the yacht being hauled in by a rust-streaked tugboat. To the board sweating on that deck right now, you have a choice. Back the visionary who forgot to check if he had admin access, or back the engineer who holds the keys. I held up the fob one more time, dropped the mic, and walked away. I didn't look back. I later heard Brent cried the entire tow back to the dock. By that evening, the clip of my speech had gone viral. Brent's father called to tell me I'd embarrassed the firm. I reminded him his son had embarrassed himself. I'd simply saved the asset. Brent was out within the week. He's currently attempting a crypto podcast. Last I checked, it has 12 listeners. I'm not telling you this story because I enjoy watching someone fall. I'm telling you because there's a lesson in it that has nothing to do with yachts or venture capital. Never assume the quiet person in the coveralls is the one with the least power in the room. Sometimes she's the one holding the only key that matters. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell me in the comments. What's the most satisfying moment you've ever seen an entitled person get exactly what was coming to them? Subscribe for more stories where quiet competence wins in the end. See you in the next one.